Hello ladies, and welcome to Homemaking Radio. I've designed these videos to listen as you go and as you do your things in your house that you need to do. If you've got something that you're having trouble getting started at, or is a little repetitive, or looks difficult, you need to sort through, or if you have to load something, unload something, sort something, fold something, anything that you need to do that requires you to concentrate and be by yourself. Housekeeping and homemaking is quite isolating, so it's nice to have something to listen to. And if you'll go to my blog, and there are no comments here on the channel, but you can comment to me on the blog and tell me what it was that you heard that was helpful, because that helps me to develop new ideas for more videos. But if you'll go to my blog, and on the left hand side is continuous play, so you don't have to go to YouTube to find me. You can just turn that on, and that way the next one will come on, and it'll bookmark itself, I guess. But I just wanted you to know that. And also my PayPal is over there. And also, if you would like to leave me a comment, I'd really appreciate it. The more comments, the better. So I want to start out, because I'm going to read a couple things for you today, and I'm going to start out reading an article that I wrote, I believe. I can't remember when this was. Let me just check out when I wrote this. If you're new here, this is a homemaking blog, and it's been going on for some time. I'm trying to get the date on this thing that I wrote. It was 2007. All right. And it's called 30 things to do in the home. Let's see if I can find it here. All right. So here is the list. And first I want to preface this a little bit by one of the problems we're having with lack of faith. And someone asked my Mr. S to please address that in one of his lessons, Bible classes, or at his sermons. And so he asked me to take some notes on it, because I was running in and out of his office telling him some things I had thought of, and he wanted me to write them all down. Well, of course, I just write things down on the fly, and I have a shopping list that's over on a little area in my kitchen, and when I run out of something, I'll write something down. And so I just used my shopping list to write this stuff down. And when I gave him this is what it said. Before you develop faith, you are going to have to give up some things: worry, fear, criticism, suspicion, hatred, bad reports. And then there was a list here: whipped cream, butter, eggs. And so he was reading this and said, "You mean I have to give up eggs?" So I had combined it with my list, and he thought it was quite amusing. And I wanted to tell you something about in any crisis. Of course, I have the advantage over you, because I am approaching 70, and I've lived through all these wars and rumors of wars, and all the viruses and all the things that, and this one, of course, is hyped up more by the media. And I discovered something, and that is that a Christian will pray to God and then get on with their life, just get back to work. And that's how you feel. The work is such a blessing, isn't it? To be able to do something is such a blessing, because you don't have to sit there and worry about everything. And sometime I did write an article, I think, one time, but I will broadcast it, about artists in the 1800s in Britain and America who produced the most beautiful artwork, even though if you look up their dates, the time of that they were alive, you will see all the stuff that was going on in the world was quite threatening. And the newspapers, of course, were always forever trying to exploit it so they could sell papers, and they were enhancing the information so much that it would put people in a panic. And so I have the advantage over you, because I've seen it all. And one of the things that really helped me a lot was to get into homeschooling, because you take your faith away from the education system, you take your faith in the news media away, and you go back into this wonderful this wonderful life of how life really is at home and all the things you can help your children learn and discover and develop. And it's a great time to help them develop skills and talents and explore all the things that they might like. And one of the things that I did at home was I had what I called the coffee table, I guess you would call it evangelism. And I laid things on the coffee table that I thought they might be interested in picking up. And it was a variety of things. Like for the boys, I would have a little book on tools of olden times, or tools today, or then I would have another book on airplanes, and I'd have another book on some spiritual aspect, and I'd have things laying around that they could pick up, that they could just pick up and read. And if they didn't pick it up, they would at least eye it and look at the title on it. And this actually helped them figure out what interested them the most. And then they would, when we went to bookstores, because in those days you didn't have curriculum, we went to bookstores, then they would head for the section that they were the most interested in, but had to develop their interest. And of course, we're a Christian family and we're agrarian, so we felt responsible to teach them our ways, to teach them our religion and our lifestyle. And my background and my husband's background too, we taught them all of that so that they could draw on that if they needed to in life. Now, I have a few notes here on my shopping list. You don't have to give up cream and coffee and tea. So, we have to give up our trust. More things you have to give up if you want to develop faith. You have to give up your trust in things and in uncertain things, and give up your trust in established man-made institutions. When you do that, your faith first takes kind of a bare spot, a plummet, because you've let go of your support structure. When you leave the public school system, when you leave the news media, when you leave, and maybe when friends leave you, you develop, you kind of, there's a gap there, there's a hole there, and you are giving up something, and you're going to replace it with faith, because then you turn to things that are more certain, and you start thinking for yourself, you start thinking a little differently than the books taught you to, and you live a little differently. So and you also have to lose your faith in, you have to drop your faith in other things that are uncertain. You have to drop your faith in the health system of the world, which isn't health at all. And I have told you about this before. Medicine is not health. Medication is not health. Health is clean water, clean air, clean living, natural fibers, natural fibers that you wear, and it's good, clean food that you prepare yourself, and also a good state, a healthy state of mind, happiness. Happiness is better for your heart, better for anything. And I told you in a recent video, when you're nervous, upset, unhappy, and tense over something, over an issue, all this constricts, and your eyes are different. Your eyes even get, I don't know, there's something about just your whole face will be different when you're upset. So you have to lose faith in what the world is telling you. You have to lose faith in the media. You have to lose faith in the health department and WHO and the World Court and the World Bank and all this stuff. You have to lose faith in that. Those are support structures that many people, and the education system, they're support structures that when you leave them, of course, then you feel like you're limbless and you don't have any anchor. And the Bible says hope we have as an anchor to the soul. And I have mentioned hope many times because hope is something, and I have the advantage over you because I have lived on hope all of my life. And I've noticed that the people that have the most to lose in this life are the ones that are the most anxious. I don't have anything to lose. I live in the manse. It's not even my own house. The only thing I have to lose is that vast collection of fabric and my teacups. And my mother always said there's more where that came from. So I live on hope. And my hope is, if you don't keep your hope alive, if you don't keep, in fact, that would be a good handwriting lesson for your children. Have them write in their best handwriting, keep hope alive. Just have them write that. Make a little sign and hang it up. If you don't have hope, let's say you hope for something, but you really your reality takes over, your realism, your practical side, your practical nature takes over and say, well, I could hope for that, but it ain't going to happen. If you don't keep hope alive, then you're just probably dead while you live. You've got to have hope. And so I have a list of all the things that I hope for, all the things that I want to happen in my life, and to a great deal, you know, it's you can decide to be happy, but hope has to be in there. You have to have some hope. And if you hope for something, let's say you hope to have a better health, but then you give up hoping, then at least if you're hoping for it, you have more chance of getting it. And if you're not hoping for it, you definitely might not get it. It's like telling some kind of need to God, some kind of need that you have, emotional need. He might grant it, and he might not. But if you don't ask, then there's less possibility. So replace worry with prayer. How often do you wake up worrying? Do you ever get out of bed and you just all of a sudden the worry starts, the adrenaline starts to set in, and you just feed on that and you worry? Replace worry with prayer. Every single time that you've got a disturbing thought or disturbing feeling, you stop, drop, and pray. I mean, you might feel ridiculous after a while. Or change the worry to a prayer. Change the worry to a song. Just change it. You remember the songs we grew up with? Even some of the popular songs on the radio, they were more cheerful than what's going on today. And do you remember there was a song, Show Me Where You Brought Me To and Where I Could Have Been? So remind me, dear Lord. Remember that song? I'll try to post that for you. Now, today I want to read to you, and I'm going to read what I wrote in 2007, and it's the list called 30 Things to Do at Home. Now, this was for women who said, I have nothing to do at home, and so I could go get a job and send my children to someone else to care for, and I will go get a job, and then I'll just get takeout on the way home, so we'll all have a meal. And let me warn you about that kind of thing. The takeout meals have more sodium in them, more sugar in them, more foods that are not whole. You know, they're not complete. They, white everything. And of course, I eat a lot of white ingredients, but they're not bleached. I mean, you can get the paler flour. So this is the list. Hopefully, if I don't chatter all the time about every single one, I can get through the list in an hour. But I also hope that I'll have time to read you a story. If not, I will do another video on that. But I've got to show you my teacup first, and then you may go and do your work. Now, as I have said, we are recycling. I found the one that matches this. It's one of those Stitch Call China by Gracie China that you get at Home Goods, Ross, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls. And I really like these because they don't have any gold on them, and you can put them in their dishwasher. And it's great. Gracie Bone China by Coastline Imports. It's dishwasher safe. And but we're going to be getting some really beautiful. I've heard we're going to get some really beautiful china that's not expensive. That's going to be probably American made now. And but I really think this is so lovely, isn't it? And so I'm going to start this now. And so if you're new here, I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to invite you to please leave a comment. First of all, do you have a morning routine in the house? Or do you just get out of bed, feet hits the floor, and you're off and running, and you're really like here and there and not really focused? I would like to just kind of back up on that one and say, not only do you have a morning routine, but ask the question, do you have a morning way of getting up, of waking up? Do you teach your children? First, you stretch. Stretching is so good for you. That's what you do. You stretch a few times before you get up. Then you slowly move the covers off. and then you get one foot out, and you just carefully, and of course I used to, sometimes we would play like we were in a resort, and I would take my children, a cup of tea in the morning. And I think that's nice, and reach over and get your cup of tea, and have something you're writing in, or something that you read first thing in the morning, and just kind of think a little bit, think about everything, and then stay in bed a little bit, and then get up. If you wake up early enough, you don't have to worry about jumping out of bed, because you'll be so early that you've got time to leisurely wake up. And then you gather your things, and you go into the bathroom, and teach your children how to enjoy getting up, enjoy waking up. So do you have a waking up routine? So here I'm going to read a little bit more to you, and I'm trying to get where I can see this from a distance here. Okay. Are your dishes washed and put away? See, I'm just listing things to do. Are your dishes washed and put away? Is your cabinet top clear? That's the area, that you work on around the sink, and that's probably why I never do a video in the kitchen, because I don't have a clear cabinet. I get it all cleaned up, and then somebody wants something to eat. So we cook a little bit, we prepare something, and then we eat it, and then we get it all cleaned up, and then we eat again. I don't know. It's just the busiest place. Is your table clear when not dining, and do you have a centerpiece? I've read a little bit about the custom of the centerpiece, and that is, it's the whole family's sitting. That's why I like a round table. Love it. The whole family's sitting around this round table, and there's something in the center there that's interesting to focus on. They don't have to stare at each other or look at each other's food or plates. It's just nice. You just have to be careful to keep it low enough that you can converse across the table. And it can be anything. I once in the summer had a great big conch seashell, and I put a little water in it, and I picked some flowers and put the flowers in the seashell and put that in the middle of the table. And I also have had a number of creative type tabletop centerpieces, from children's toys to, like, I once had a little truck, and it had a area in the back, and I put a plant back there and put that in the centerpiece. But a centerpiece, does your table have a centerpiece? What about a little tiny jelly jar with a blossom in it from outside, or some little piece of greenery from outside? What about, you could do it. Try one thing. Just put a little centerpiece. And if you have children, that can be someone's job for a while to check that out. It becomes important. Have you cleaned your cupboards and storage areas and shelves and fridge in the last 3 months? Well, I've kind of solved the fridge problem by, whenever I open that door to take something out or put something in, I'll move things around and neaten them up, and get my vinegar out with my paper towel and wipe down some of the shelves in there. And what I do is I keep everything towards the sides of the fridge, so the middle part is empty, and that way, that's where the prepared food goes. If I'm preparing something for later, or I need to put a salad in there, and it goes in the middle. And so my middle area, all 3 shelves down to the bottom, are cleaned and waiting to put something in. So, and also clean as you go, so because having a day to clean the fridge is difficult. So I like to clean as I go, and even if I see a little spot in one of the little crisper bins, I'll pull it out, get my vinegar out, and my spray vinegar and my paper towel, and wipe it down. Is your porch clean and the entryway cheerful for visitors or people who see it from the road? Oh my, I remember trips I've been on where we've been driven past neighborhoods, and how much I loved seeing their porches and their front area. You can tell when a woman cares about her house, because she's made it all to, like, I have this English meadow green. It's called English meadow green trim on my white house, the manse. So what I do is I try to match up all the outdoor furniture to that. On the little porch is a little green table and chair set, and then my pots and plants kind of coordinate with that and match that. And That way it has good, what we call it here in America, curb appeal. So have you, is your porch clean and the entryway cheerful? Let's talk about the entryway. That's what you see when you first open the door and walk in the house. Be nice to yourself. Now, of course, everybody's thinking, well, no one ever comes, I don't have company, or for some reason where it doesn't matter. But doesn't it matter to you? Doesn't it matter to your children when they walk in the door? Treat yourself. Treat yourself. Treat yourself nice. I've told a lot of people, by the way, ladies, I forgot to show you one thing. So if you're just sitting here watching me, you can see this. I'm wearing my gloves today from the Dollar Tree. Look how they match my pretty little blazer here. Now I'll wear these when I'm out, push a cart with it, open a store door with it, punch the keypad if I'm using my debit card with them, and then wash them, put them in the washer at the end of the day. And of course I have a lot of them now because sometimes I forget to put them in my purse, and I'll get into the Dollar Tree and say, oh, I better get some gloves, and there they are. They still have them there. It hasn't been rated. Now, everything that's been rated has been promoted by the press, but anything I promote is still there. So I'm promoting gloves and hats and handkerchiefs or Kleenex, and so I just love these gloves. And don't they look nice when I'm drinking tea? Now that's important, isn't it? So unfortunately you can't wear them when you're using your computer. They don't work. Okay, your porch and your entryway. So let's talk a little bit about your entryway. And I've talked for 21 minutes. If you are antsy and you don't want to concentrate anymore, you're welcome to go, and you can continue later. But let's talk about the entryway. Now, I'm living in an older home that doesn't have an entryway. You open the door, and there you are. So what I've done is I put a few little things there to make you feel like you're in a hall or an entryway. You could put a little short bookshelf or something that kind of divides the room from the hall. Create a hall with your furniture, and I've really enjoyed that. And so I have an entryway, and I have a place for people to hang up their wraps, their coats, and also the entryway. If you can afford to have one of those mirrors and a table that goes with it that's a half a circle, and put your guest book on it, and put your a bouquet on it, or a place to put keys. And even if nobody comes, the children can sign the guest book. It's a lot of fun. And in the scrapbook business, in the scrapbook era, you can find instructions to make your own guest book, and how to tie it, and how to make the pages, and it is just wonderful. And I think you should do that. Create an entry area, okay? Or if you're entering and you don't really have an entry, you can go to the nearest wall and put a side table on there that's a little taller, and put all your stuff there, and put a little bowl of some kind of treat, like little apples and homemade cookies there, just anything you like. I just use your own judgment and your own creative. You've got to develop your creativity, and the best thing to do, I have found, with anything like that is, you can go on Pinterest and get all kinds of ideas, but they don't work unless they look nice to you and in your home. So you just have to kind of experiment, move things around, substitute colors, and then stand back and look and to see if you like it. Okay, here's the next one. Are your carpets clean? Well, most of us don't have many carpets anymore. We have the area rugs, which are very easy to pick up and take outside and shake or clean. And so I have one carpet that's not clean, but I don't want to waste money on getting it cleaned or cleaning it myself. I've been through a lot of carpet cleaners myself. I've bought them over the years, and I'm so glad to be rid of the carpets, and I don't have to spend money on a carpet cleaner, which they break down rather quickly, especially if you live out in the country and the dirt is a little different. But I am looking forward to having this piece pulled out. You're not supposed to be keeping your carpets as long as I have. But yes, that is a question though. Are your carpets clean? You don't have to have a carpet cleaner. You can just get some of that Dawn liquid and put it in a spray bottle with water and spray on the spots and scrub them with a little kitchen scrub brush, And by the way, talking about home things that you use at home, Hobby Lobby has things for the home. Like there was one aisle I went down the other day, and it had aprons, and it had the graters that you grate your cheese and grate your carrots with. It had those. They were kind of nice, and they're all in these colors, like mint green and pink and gray, and they had a whole shelf full of slow cookers, blenders, toasters, and they were all in the new decorator colors. Kind of interesting to see that. Plus, they had a couple of other things too, um, just just for the kitchen. Is your floor clean? Well, I tell you, there is one problem with that. You can sweep it. The new floors, they're nice, they're beautiful. You sweep them one day, and pretty soon, like the next day, it's time to sweep them again because they do show everything more. But I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm not saying, so far I have gone to number 8. These are 8 things that I have said and talked about. I don't mean you have to go and do them. But what this is, the whole point is can you actually say that there's nothing to do and that you have to leave the home and get a job and because it's just going to be neglected worse. And when people put pressure on me to leave and go get a job, I will say, I will. As soon as I get my house in the condition that I want it in. And of course, you know how that goes. As soon as I get, everything dug out here and everything improved and all my archives gone through and get rid of some stuff and go back through my books. Books are the hardest, aren't they? As soon as I get all that in control, I get my life more control here, get my yard work done, get all my laundry caught up too, then I'll go. And they quit asking after a while. Is your living room ready for company? That would be your front room, your lounge room. Is your living room ready for company? That's the one room that I keep. That's why people have had, in the newer homes, they will have I don't know what that's called, a family room. That's the room everybody is in, but they'll have a front room that they keep rather prepared and clean, kind of like the old-fashioned parlor. And that is the way my house is now, is that the front room is what I keep clean. That's the place that's ready for company at all times. I even have a tea set there and a kettle, place to plug it in, and some water, and my cookie jar. Everything is there on a table in the front room, in the living room. And I think that it's nice to have a family room, which is different. That's where you would have your media. That's where you have your books. That's where you have things for the children to do. That is a wonderful idea. But I was thinking a little bit about design, house design, and how we need to have smaller living rooms and larger bedrooms. And the reason for this is the bedrooms, and as our children got older, one of them even bought a great big drawing desk, one of those slanted things, and a special chair to sit up with it. And he needed a very large room to put that in. And so we ended up putting it like in the living room because it was large, but he would have rather had it in his own room. And so especially as you're homeschooling and the children get more interests, and it'd be nice if they had larger bedrooms because they'll have their desk in there. They'll have their interests in there. They'll have, it's a little house for them. And they'll learn to keep house by first learning about their rooms. And I really wish that the bedrooms were larger and that the living rooms were a little smaller, because rarely were there that many people to justify having such a huge room. In my case, my living room is empty most of the week, and so I would have liked to have had larger bedrooms with the desks in them for everybody. And that's just my observation and my opinion. And if we had a smaller front room, most people have their own possessions, to look after. But if you had a smaller front room, that would prevent everybody's stuff from being in there, and they could keep it in their rooms, and also easier to clean, easier to keep clean. So that's just my idea. See, I talk so much. My phone went off. Okay. Is your laundry washed, folded, ironed, and put away? Keep in mind, I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm only listing it in case you have think that you are bored or have time to pursue money all the time. So I'm not saying it's wrong to have money or to earn it. No, not at all. But I am telling you, it's very easy to get obsessed with it. It's very, even if you say, well, I'm going to work at home, it's very easy to push the children aside and say, in a minute, and don't bother me, and get away, and so that everybody is on a, you are not monitoring anyone because you're so busy with this idea of making money at home. And I read you a very tender story yesterday of a woman who decided to focus more on her home. I really need to redo that because I think that story was written in 1932. One of the old books that I have, a reprint of it, I think said it was 1932, and it made more sense. I don't know why online it says it was written in 1888. It couldn't have been, because it mentioned the cars and the state highway, and don't think that there would have been that many cars on a state highway in 1888. Not sure, but okay. So here's my next one here. Is your mending and button replacement caught up? You know, sometimes I think that the reason people wear t-shirts all the time is so there aren't any buttons. You don't ever have to replace a button. But everything needs to be mended, and I'm sure that that is one thing you can teach your children at home. I taught my boys, and I taught the grandsons, how to mend any hole, how to fix anything, how to put a patch on something, so they know how to mend their clothes. They know how to mend their what we call their overalls, which are the, you know, the big things with the bib overalls. I don't know if you know what that is, and I don't know what they call them anymore. I taught them all how to do that, how to thread a needle and how to mend something, because what's happened is that people are so helpless without knowing how to mend something that they'll just go buy a new one, and then everybody wonders why they don't have enough money for their needs. We could probably mend something. Now, I just wanted to show you something that I did that altered an outfit that I had, altered a garment that I had, gave it new life. This little top here, it has a little lace inset here, and I just loved it, but it had two little plain buttons in the front, and which I think sort of cheapened it, and so I replaced those two buttons with pearl buttons right there. And the way I get buttons sometimes is when a garment or a man's shirt has finished and has been worn to death. And you know, men marry their shirts. They never, ever want to give them away or send them to Goodwill. They'll just wear them until they die. You know, it's till death do us part with a shirt or a pair of pants. So I take the buttons off when it's had enough. And if it's got holes in it and it's just too thin to repair, I take all the buttons off, and that's how I get my button supply and my button jar. And I'll do the same thing with women's clothes, and sometimes I'll find a treasure in a button, even at Goodwill. If I go through some of their blouses and they're having a sale and it's only $1, I will get the blouse just for the pearl buttons if I can find them. You don't have to do that though. Okay, do you bake bread? Once again, no one has to do it. But if a woman is bored, maybe she should try baking her own bread. Now that's quite an art, isn't it, to get to bake your own bread? And it takes more time. It smells wonderful. It has far greater effects than can be listed here, both emotionally and physically, or even involving childhood memories and the life of home. And like the story I read to you yesterday, it was so emotional because she had filled the air with this beautiful scent of her baking and of her biscuits. Now we call those, I don't know, they'd be the same as scones, but. Number 13, is your bathroom shining clean and does it smell nice? Do you know that a lot of, I watch videos sometimes for housekeepers that have been hired to clean hotels, exclusive hotels, and they will mention that the toilet bowl you have to clean under it and around the little stand that it's on, and clean all around that. And that's something families often miss. And they'll have a smell in their bathroom and not realize you can't just clean the inside of the bowl. You have to clean the outside all around. And so, yeah, make your bathroom smell nice and shining clean. And your faucets, if they're shining clean, and your mirrors too, you know, just having a shiny clean mirror just lifts you up so much. And we often look at going somewhere else and we expect that all to be clean. If we go to stay somewhere and we paid a lot for it, why not invest a little more in your own house and stay home and create that luxury for yourself? Does your house smell nice? Have you redecorated? This is 15. Have you redecorated or rearranged in the last 3 years? You need not do it. But I did explain in one post way back in 2005, I think, where you do have to move things around. Our parents did it, if you remember, and it always made the house seem new. It's different. It was adventurous to us as children. But you move it around because the seasons change, and the sun will come in a different way and there'll be a piece of furniture there that's been there for years and be all faded on one side because no one moved it. Things have to be moved around to prevent, and there'd be a certain side of a piece of furniture that's worn, but the other side is not, because that would be the nearest side, and someone would sit on that part immediately, or that chair immediately. So if you want everything to be worn equally, you move your furniture around, and that way it all just sort of stays fresh. And also the area under it, you know, you need to move things around just to keep your house fresh. Are your beds made? Are your sheets and bedding fresh? These days, you know, it used to be you had to wait till spring, I guess, to wash your bedding and your sheets because, you know, you'd have to hang them outside. Well, these days you can wash once a week, whether you need to or not. And it's just so sweet. There's nothing sweeter than crawling into a bed that's clean and fresh. And I like to put I grow lavender, and I like to put a little lavender underneath the pillowcases. And I think that it guarantees you'll have a better sleep and maybe sweet dreams. All right. And of course, use natural fibers. I have noticed I've always used cotton, 100% cotton. I don't like polyester. I don't like microfiber. I don't like any of that stuff. I think a lot of sleep disorders can be rectified by going back to linen and cotton. And now they have bamboo. I don't know if you have slept under bamboo sheets, but it's just like silk. It's just beautiful. I'm not sure how natural it is or what. If there was I think it was a bamboo cotton blend that I bought, and it used to be those sheets were like very, very expensive. Well, now you're seeing them in Walmart and Bi-Mart and all these other places. So I decided to get a set. It wasn't more than $20, and slept on them, and they're just so sweet, bamboo. And thought that's interesting. So yes, use natural fibers. Do you hang your clothes on the line? You don't have to, but it's actually good for the health. The sun comes along and starches it. It's just so nice. And I love towels that are starched on the line. They're a bit stiff, but they absorb better. Then again, buy 100% cotton, or, you know, they have this Egyptian cotton, which is so nice. It's not any more expensive, and you want to avoid the microfibers. Avoid these synthetics. They don't absorb as well. Do you grow a garden or even a tomato in a pot? That's something to do. That's something you can start with your children doing now, because Dollar Tree now has the tomatoes they have a little kit with a little pot and some seeds, and the soil is already in there. All you have to do is bring it home and have your children put the seeds in and water it. And it's just a beautiful thing to do with children. You never know what kind of seed you are planting, because I did this with my children, and one of my sons is now a brilliant landscaper and gardener, and his property's absolutely gorgeous. And are your drawers and storage areas organized? That's one of my problems here is drawers and storage. I'm so busy, and for years I was so busy that I didn't notice, that they were getting too cluttered. So are your drawers and storage areas organized? These are things to do. Are your photos organized? Well, see, there's the problem. We're not getting photos anymore, but we have them all on disk or online, and even then they have to be looked at and organized. And I would really suggest, if you could possibly afford it, to get them printed out so that you can put them in real albums. I kind of miss that, People had their albums laying on the coffee table, and you get it out. It was a history of their family. But now everything's on screen, and you don't really get the photos anymore. In fact, I don't think I have any new ones. I mean, I still have the old ones, but are your computer files organized? I was sent to they used to call it a junior college or a career college. I'm trying to think what it's called now. And I was sent to one of those when I was 17, and I was to learn to do bookwork and be a bookkeeper for a lawyer. And I learned all these intricate things about filing and everything. And filing is the thing I hate the worst now. Isn't that interesting? I don't like it. So my computer files are not organized. Do you make any of your own clothes? Well, my ambition is to use up my fabric and make all homemade clothes. I'm very tempted sometimes. I'll look through a catalog and say, oh, I like that, and and then I have to remind myself I've got some fabric and I want to use it all up. And so I'm going to have a fashion show for you pretty soon of seasonal clothes, and I'll have my line of clothes, of course, the one I hang on the clothesline. So yes, I do make my own clothes, but I haven't been doing that because I've been taking time off to do some other things. And does your husband ever have to ask for an ironed shirt? Would you iron my shirt? Now, see, I've had the ironing board and iron sitting out in a prominent place, so he always can go and iron his own. But I kind of like ironing it myself. I really enjoy it, and it gives me great satisfaction to hang that on a hanger and take it over to his bathroom. It's kind of neat. And that frees up time for him to do all the myriad of things that he has to do, and it keeps him from being in a hurry. I don't think it's good to be in a hurry. Are your books organized? Yeah, that's what I'm working on. I didn't realize I was collecting that many, really, and it was before the computer era. So everything that I wanted was in a book or a magazine, and I kept them all. Do you go through your things regularly for garage sales? Well, I don't have garage sales anymore. I find I can make more money with less effort if I donate to these places like Goodwill, because they'll give you a receipt and you can write a certain amount of, you can write up to $50 or $100 that you contribute to household goods or clothes or whatever. And when you get ready to, you can get something reduced, or you can get your taxes reduced apparently if you submit that. And I actually make more money just donating because I can get some of it back. Are your windows clean? It just occurred to me after I've been married a few years that maybe I should wash the windows. But see, when you grow up and your mother always does it, somehow it doesn't occur to you when you get your own place, hey, I got to wash the windows. Or she made one of us kids do it. I don't know what was the matter with me, but I finally figured out how much nicer it is to have a clean window to look out of and to clean both sides of it. And I wanted to tell you, get your vinegar spray and your paper towels out and do that. And also, don't do it on a sunny day. Do it on a cloudy day, and clean your windows on a cloudy day because they won't streak as badly. Do you cook regular meals and prepare your meals from basic ingredients? Ladies, at least have the basic fresh ingredients to make a sandwich, okay? And if you make your own bread, then that's even better. But make a sandwich and learn how to do that, and teach your children how to at least make a sandwich and make tea. Have you had anyone over for tea in the last month? You know, you could do that. All you need is tea and some shortbread cookies, and you can buy those. It's not that hard. Um, but I would suggest you start baking. Keep some flour around, start baking, because even if it doesn't turn out all the time, you get some practice and you get a workout of your pans and your oven and your um, I've heard people say, well, you know, I've got the same set of pots and pans I had when I was first married, or we have the same oven and cooktop as we had when we were first married. But what happens is those of us who homeschooled, our children learned to cook on those things, and we had all our meals at home, so we wore out things a lot faster. But the Lord helped us replace them. So there might be interests such as writing, crafts, hobbies, or other things that you're interested in that you need to pursue. Now I know one lady, she was so efficient at home that she really didn't have anything to do. Her floors were clean, everything was nice, and but she knew she wanted to be home for everyone, so she just took up an interest in knitting, and her knitting was absolutely beautiful, and she sought out perfect yarns made out of real things like wool and cotton and other things that you could knit with, and made the most exquisite things with it, and it kept her interest up and relaxed her at the same time, and it was quite useful. Now, this is a perfect time if you're home, you can now get online and go to YouTube and find courses you can take in art. It might be a nice time to learn how to draw and paint. And Dollar Tree has canvases and paints and anything that you need. I noticed they even had the little palette knives, you know, and to make those dramatic strokes on paintings. And they have all kinds of sets of brushes, and you can go online and sometimes get a free lesson, and you can get a paid course. And if you are interested in homeschooling your children but you don't quite know what to do and what you're doing, you can go get courses. You can pay for them or not pay for them, and you can learn to do things. You can even learn there are exercise videos, there's gardening videos, there's, you know, learn how to grow your vegetables, learn how to grow your salad supplies. And there are so many things that you can learn to do at home. Now, nobody should feel that they must do all of these 30 things. I'll leave a link to the list. But the point here is that there's always something you're needed in at home. You are needed there. And you can replace anybody in a hired job, but you can't replace yourself at home. You really can't. You're the only one that cares enough about it to really do a very good job. No one else can fill your role. No one else can be the wife or the daughter or the mother or the guide of the home. No one else can be in charge of the home the way you are. No one. Even if you can say yes to these 30 things, more things are waiting for you to do. Surely there's more than that. If you are really bored, you can start a business at home. If you are all tired of all the work at home, you can still do something that relaxes you. One of the things that I did that gave me immense satisfaction, I can cook and sew, and I can knit and crochet, and I can paint. But the thing that I enjoyed the most was writing a little newsletter. I just wrote my own newspaper. It was just one page on one side, and I would put some little saying on there, and then I would write a recipe, or I'd just draw some things and give it to the ladies' Bible class, give it to my grandchildren, give it to my friends, and it's handwritten, you know, and copied on the copy machine. And you know what? Why don't you give it a try? Just write one newsletter. When we traveled on the ship, the Oriana, in 1967 from Los Angeles to Australia, we got a newsletter every morning saying what was going on that we could do on board the ship and what the menu was. It was only one side. And so that is what I did. I just did a one-sided piece of paper with a newsletter, told what time I was doing something, what was for lunch, and put a little story in there, made up a poem, and you can do that too. If you did that every day, you know what? I think that's so stimulating to your mind. Plus, it stretches you a little bit, and you find out how far you can go with that and what more can be done. Now, Our foremothers used to read a great deal. Don't you remember in Wives and Daughters when Mrs. Hamley asked Molly, do you read? And she said, yes, but I'm not much for steady reading, as Papa calls it. And Mrs. Hamley says, I don't sew, you know, but I read a great deal. They used to write letters to their sisters and mothers, make hooked rugs, make jewelry, make all kinds of things. They loved going for walks and telling stories. What about a flower press? Have you ever made a flower press with the corrugated cardboard and the non-acid paper? And you have to get some attachments to put it all together to press down on the flowers to make dried flowers. And then they would take the dried flowers out and put them on paper to make a letter, to write letters on. But that is a wonderful thing to do with your children or for yourself. If you don't have any children at home anymore, I'm going to try to get one myself, and I think you can get them online. They're called Flower Press. They loved going for walks and telling stories, and I can't list all the other things. We have a generation of women who can't remember these things or have not had the privilege of experiencing them. And sometimes they're not quite sure how to act at home. But let me tell you, after you've been at home for a while, it'll all start to settle down and set in. You'll be doing the next thing. It just takes a while to see how you work, how you function, how your mind functions, how other people manage in the home. It just takes you a while to see what you should do. And So I told a little story of my own upbringing and called The Great Potato Enterprise, which was from my book Just Breathing the Air, which I do hope to get time to read to you sometime. And that was in the summer. My father dug the rows to plant potatoes, and we children had a bag. We each had a bag, and we went behind him and put these little cut pieces of potato that he had prepared that had the sprouts on them in these holes, and then someone else would come behind and cover them up. And so then when it was time to harvest them, because children like to get their hands in the dirt, instead of using a shovel, he suggested we dig them with our hands. We could wear gloves, but we dig them with our hands, and that prevented the shovel from slicing any of them, and we got a better crop, which we sold to the local grocery store. And we washed them, and we put them in well, it was called gunny sacks, but I'm trying to think of what the name of that fabric is. Goodness, I can't think of the name of that rough fabric, you know, that's rather porous and woven. And we put them in those, and we took them to the grocery store, and they gave us money for our batch of potatoes, and then we could do what we wanted with the money. And it was such a pleasure. And then we learned that if we wanted anything, we could work for it. Now, most people will never get it all done to the point that they have nothing to do. You can never really, just have to face this fact, that you go to bed at night and know that there will always be something to do. In fact, I have to force myself to quit. Around 9 or 10 o'clock, I have to force myself to quit sewing or whatever it is I'm doing, because there's just not enough time in the day to do it, and I need my rest, and you do too. So don't despair, because in the home, it's different than the office. It's different than the workplace that you go to. It functions totally different. You cannot run it the same way, because there are not a bunch of little elves that come in at night and clean up all the things that need to be cleaned up, and you go and the school is clean and the office is clean. You have to do it all. But you just have to pace yourself, and you can get some done every day. As a homemaker, you should allow yourself time to reflect. That's why I have a stack of magazines, and I buy only the good ones. I like Hoffman Media the best. And I have a little stack of things to read that are beside a chair. And I also have my mending basket too, and it's very relaxing. And so you have to have time to reflect. They took time to stroll in the garden. I'm talking about our grandmothers and great-grandmothers. They took time to stroll in the garden, smell the roses, look at the water, or watch a sunset. They enjoyed a glass of lemonade on their porches. They had time to make calls on other people. That means, you know, they took a basket and went to see someone. During the day, they didn't have to have people watch over and dictate to them how to live at home and what to do next. They seemed to have a natural instinct for it. The new generation has somehow had that instinct removed, unfortunately, but you can get it back once you start staying home. The best way to discover your routine and responsibilities is through observing daily what you seem to be doing. This is usually how homemakers operate. They do what needs to be done the most urgently first, and then if they're able, they will do other things. Eventually, your own routine will develop. So ladies, I hope this has been good for you, and I will be coming back to read The Wife by Washington Irving. Now that one was written in the, I believe, 17 or 1800s, so we'll see how that goes. It's another story of great joy and encouragement, a little bit on the emotional side, so I'll be sure I have my tissues with me this time. So ladies, please leave a comment, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.